Hey, this is Tim Cruickshank, and you're watching the Break It Down Show.
Yeah, we've got Tim on the show. More importantly, we've got Jeff Wilson co-hosting, and it's always fun to have Jeff on the show. Jeff is from the Andrews and Wilson writing team. Hey, Jeff, tell us why we have Tim on the show today.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks so much for having me along, but also for having Tim. Tim's a friend of mine, Navy SEAL, who is doing some amazing things that I think that your listeners are going to be interested in. Tim is, among other accomplishments, he's now running an amazing coffee company and a vineyard, and using that money to support charities that support the Naval Special Warfare community. So, yeah, really excited to talk to him.
Yeah, that's cool. And Tim, I've done a swim in the past before COVID time, and I did a swim for I forget which group it was, but it was like the Navy SEAL Foundation, or maybe it was the Foundation for Navy SEALs. They're all kind of similar named, but you, I've got a special place in my heart for special operations folks, because I've worked in it amongst with you guys, and I know what it means physically and emotionally to go through all that stuff. So one, thanks for doing what you do. Thank you, Jeff, also for doing what you do. And thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, you guys. I really appreciate it. This is great.
Wine and coffee.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can you not get excited about that? Like you had one more thing, you've got the only three things I care about. So
yeah, it's kind of funny. I was joking around with my business partner, and we said, why start one company during a pandemic when you can start two? We get you started in the morning and finish it off at night.
So when you decide to start a winery, do you have some kind of background in that? I mean, look, you're a SEAL, so I can give you $5 and say, meet me in Cuba in 36 hours and you'll be there, looking great, feeling good and all that kind of thing. But a vineyard's a different proposition than getting over a mountaintop or dead reckoning.
No, I agree. No, I had no background in either one of these things. And so, it's been an uphill climb. But really, it didn't have to do with the products themselves. It had to do with the story that was behind it. We're using both of these, wine and coffee, as vehicles to tell our story. We're super excited about that. Can I tell you a little bit about how it kind of started?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So, I retired in 2016 after 25 years in the Navy. And, I look back on it, and I retired out of Fort Bragg. And for Navy retirements, they're big and they're traditional. Jeff knows this. He's seen some. And I remember standing up there at the podium looking out at all these people that came to see my retirement. And I remember as I was talking to everybody and looking at them, looking in their eyes and remembering all the different memories of things that happened over 25 years and most recently 16 years of war and combat and stuff. And I felt like I was leaving people behind, It's kind of a weird thought. And after the retirement, I sat down and I wanted to create something that was unique and had the ability to tell a story, to remember kind of those that made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our freedom and our country. We ended up naming our companies Bonefrog for that very reason, because the Bonefrog is an iconic kind of sacred symbol of those that gave their lives in the SEAL teams, and took that image, redrew it a little bit. It was originally drawn by Keith Kimura, who was a SEAL corpsman, and that's what I was when I first started out. And redrew it a little bit to make it different, but still to have the same kind of mindset and to honor those people. And it's kind of cool that, I can take these labels both on wine and coffee and share this briefly on the label itself. But when you go to the website, it gives you a little bit more depth on what that means and why we're doing this and why we exist as a company.
So would you say that it's really interesting because I've talked about this before. Obviously, Tim and I we're partnering Andrews and Wilson in some things that we're doing, and this is the first time I've sort of heard the whole story. And so as I listen to you talk, it sounds like in addition to honoring, there's an educational component to this. I mean, like the bone frog icon, you and I know what it means. Pete knows what it means. You say that at Hot Tuna in Virginia Beach, or everybody knows what you're talking about. But to be able to share that image in something that is really desirable, like coffee or wine, it's an outreach almost. It's not just about fundraising. It's about reaching out to people that maybe don't understand that community and that sacrifice. Was that part of your mindset when you were coming up with that image?
That's a great way to put it, Jeff. And so in my head, I had this visualization of, 2,000 years ago when guys were fighting, whether it was the Vikings or Romans, whatever it was. They would come back from these epic battles and they would sit down around a campfire and share stories of heroic acts or things that people did, epic battles, or whatever it was. But they had something that they were drinking, whether it was wine or grog, and they would share these stories. And it was meant to relive the battle, create history, and to create a legacy for those people. Because there's a saying that we die twice, once when we stop breathing and once when somebody says our name for the last time. I want to be that company that continues to say their names, that talks about these heroic acts, that sacrificed literally everything, their families, their wives, their children, all that stuff. They gave their lives for something greater than themselves. And so it's really funny, when we put this bottle down in the middle of a dinner table, they were at a fancy party, we don't tell anybody, and we put the bottle down in the middle of the table, you can see everybody just stop, look at it, because it's a striking image on the bottle. And then the conversation starts. What is that? What's that about? That's why we exist as a company, to be able to share those stories, to talk about those people that are behind that symbol, that label.
So that is a great answer to why you chose coffee and wine, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Universal. Everybody wants some. Everybody needs some, and then it's a great conversation starter. Can you tell us a little bit about the charities that you support and why you chose those particular charities?
Absolutely. We started out with the Navy SEAL Foundation, which is near and dear to my heart. When I was forward deployed, they took care of my wife. I don't tell a whole lot of people, but my wife's got stage 4 cancer. And they were there for her. They reached out, they took care of her and the kids, and got her the help that she needed. And they were the first ones that I reached out to give back to them because of what they did for me and how grateful I was for what they did. I then reached out to the UDT SEAL Association, which is broken off into the Navy SEAL Veterans Foundation. I wanted to be able to give back to those that had served and are now veterans, retirees that have certain needs. And so we've partnered with them to help give back. We're looking at doing an article in the Blast in the second quarter magazine that's coming out. It's something that goes out to all the members as well as the different SEAL commands and things like that. And then we also reached out to the Navy SEALs Fund, which is taking care of the Brotherhood, helping out with other needs that are within the community, families and stuff like that. Our giving is growing as people hear about us. We just had conversations with the SEAL Family Foundation to start giving back to families. At the root of all of this is the ability to give back to a community that gave so much to me for a quarter century. I consider my family, so it's really important to me to be able to do
that. I think I really like the idea of these charities that support not just the teams, but the families. Like, that really resonates with me. I used to tell Wendy that, you know, I have no doubt that hers was the harder job. Like, you know this, you both know this. When you go down range, you're working, you're busy, and you're with your teammates. There's that camaraderie, that shared suffering, the shared joy, and it just goes by in a blink. And, you know, you blink your eye and you're already heading back. And that felt like 5 years to your kids and to your wife. And, you know, the car breaks down, or these little everyday things where their support system has been ripped out from under them. And so that really resonates with me. The SEAL families, and, you know, SEAL Legacy does the same thing. They have scholarship programs. They have just everyday needs. There's a couple of charities out there that actually will do things like operators downrange. Somebody has volunteered to be a male presence at their kid's basketball game, or take their daughter to the daddy-daughter dance. Like, to me, that's huge. That's the thing that really, the only stress you really have downrange is the family that's back at home, and knowing that there's somebody taking care of them. So that's really cool that you found that particular kind of organization, because that really is going to resonate with the guys.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Jeff. And like with the Navy SEAL Foundation, they help support the families. So the guys that are downrange can focus on what they're doing and not have to worry about their wives and kids back home. Helping the active duty guys, I think, is really, really important in that regard.
Hey, Tim, I'm going to have you do a tech thing for me real quick, because you're breaking up. So if you go down to the camera and mic settings, gear icon, and lower your video, you have to go into advanced settings, lower your thing down to 720. And while you're doing that, I'm going to talk with Jeff over here. Jeff, you talked about being in the field and what it takes to get by. Well, I guess we can spend some time here, because the danger that we face every day is really felt more by our family. You know, my daughter, you know, whoever's, you know, taking care of things at the homestead. For us, it's just our work. We've already accepted it. We know how to mitigate it. We've got our friends there. We get to see it every day. They don't have that luxury, like that extra burden. I think about that a lot as I get older.
Yeah, I think, and that's something I think that your family doesn't tell you until later. Because, you know, in the case of, I'm married way above my station. Okay. I'm the
Attaboy.
President Emeritus of the Married Up Club, and have been told that by many people. But one thing about Wendy was that once it all stopped, you know, after I left the Navy, and then I went and did the other things that you and I have talked about, that you just can't stop, you can't stop going thing. Once I all finally settled out and I did stop traveling with these other organizations, there was this overwhelming sense. There were tears. And I was like, well, you know, where was all this before? Like, if you would have told me. And she always said, I'm not going to be the one that stands between you and your sense of purpose. I'm not going to be the one that keeps you from doing something you feel called by God or led by your conscience or patriotism to do. That's not the kind of wife I am. And that was shattering for me. It was like knowing that she was there suffering and wishing that it would all end for so many years, and I never knew. And my children too. You know, I remember when I told my son wasn't going to travel anymore. I was leaving that job with the task force. I remember him like getting so emotional, and I thought he was going to be disappointed. You know, he was the one that I'm getting these command coins from, and he's got all these super cool guys that are his uncles, and
yes,
like the ball caps. And I thought he thought it was like rocking. And he was like, oh, thank God. I just can't take it if you do it one more time. I just don't think I could take one more time. And I had no idea. So God bless the families that so strongly support and stand behind the warriors, men and women who go down range. Like, that's an amazing sacrifice that they make, far greater than the sacrifice you make when you travel, as you know, as Tim knows. So yeah, it was really eye-opening for me. And that's, I think, why, you know, listening to Tim and talking about these family-oriented charities resonates with me so much, is like, man, just knowing that your family is taken care of when they're under so much emotional stress. It's amazing.
Let's see how Tim's comms are now. Hey, Tim, what are your thoughts about that? Like the family sacrifice when you're gone? I know for me, I got cured of birthdays and Christmas and all that stuff. It's all like, whatever. If we're going to celebrate that, if that's on the schedule today, great. I'm in. Let's do it. Christmas, yay. Because you spend so many of those holidays away. Or how many Super Bowls sitting in a chow hall watching the game. Like, I got 30 minutes to watch this game, and then I'm going to go back to work. But talk a little bit about that family sacrifice, how you see it, Tim.
Really personal for me. When you look at family sacrifice, I remember one time I came home from deployment and I had been gone for half my son's life. And I sat there, he was still asleep in bed, and I just sat there looking at him. And it broke my heart to even think about that. Think about all the holidays you missed. At one point, I had missed my oldest daughter's birthdays all the way up until she was 13 or 14 years old. I missed every one of them, and they let you know about it. I had moved over 17 times in my 25 years. Puts a lot of strain on the family, and it's hard for them to move and make new friends and things like that. The kids didn't go through all 17 of them, but it's a real sacrifice. And I think people that are not in the military don't realize that the the behind the scenes stuff. You see all the fun stuff on the movies, and TV shows, and things like that. Those are real sacrifices. When during my retirement, I made a concerted effort to focus on my family. I gave them plaques and paddles and awards, and I talked about them because really, Navy wives or military wives in general are the driving force behind guys that work. And they're the ones that are keeping everything together. They're the glue that holds the whole family together.
The audio is not getting better. It actually might have gotten worse. It's getting hard to understand.
And I don't think it's even the settings, because when it goes, I can still sort of hear it. Like, it's not out completely. It's very strange. Well,
we're moving.
Well, they play.
Okay, we're moving. We're on the move. All right.
Yeah, there we go.
We're on the C of our pace plan. Our primary is not working. Our alternate didn't work.
That's
now
right.
We're on the contingency.
So I want to, while he's doing that, I want to talk about this wine because, and the coffee too. So first of all, Brian, I hate that we're wasting an opportunity to talk smack about him because he's not here, but Brian is so addicted to Bonefrog coffee that he won't drink anything else. Like, if he won't go to Starbucks anymore. He won't go anywhere anymore. He has to have, these guys send him a bag of Bonefrog coffee, and it's the only thing he drinks. And I got to tell you, it's incredible. And this wine, we were just talking about it offline. You have something that's small and it's set up as, with a goal of raising money for charity. Wendy and I have become, and Pete, this, we've talked about this before, we've become kind of wine snobs. I'm not proud of that, but we're really snotty when it comes to wine. And so when I met Tim and I had this opportunity to try this product, I tried this wine. I was like, oh my gosh, their Merlot. I'm not a Merlot guy. Their Merlot is literally one of the best wines I've ever had in my life. It's incredible. So I guess I shouldn't have been surprised, right? Like a Navy SEAL, he's not going to do anything half-assed. If he's going to do it, he's not going to just make some grape juice. He can make the best damn wine that's ever been invented. And same thing with a coffee. It's an incredible product. So, when people go and they buy these products, they're getting something great. It's not like, when you buy the Girl Scout cookies, you're donating money to the Girl Scouts when you eat these crappy cookies. No offense to the Girl Scouts, but you're going to get something that's amazing. You're going to get addicted to it. So kudos to these guys, to David and Tim, that they said, we're going to set out to do something to help raise money. We're going to make the best damn wine and coffee on the planet. And I'll tell you, they've done it for sure.
Tim's even got his own 18 Echo just to do a little SF versus SEAL thing, handling his comms for him. So
right.
He's well prepared.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes, but it seems like it's better. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for all the kind words, Jeff. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm a believer, man. You converted me.
So look, it's one thing to say we're going to do this, we're going to give to charity. I mean, everything's righteous about it, right? But you still got to get people to show up. You still got to, like, it doesn't matter if you build the greatest wheel of all time. If no one knows about it, it's as if you didn't invent it. So how do you, and Jeff and I were just talking off mic before this, like, all of the business distractions that keep us from doing the creative stuff that we're trying to do. How do you solve these problems of, like, you can't have enough people buy your coffee and wine? Like, you're desperate for people to do these things. So how do you focus on that and then also do all the other things? I mean, there's a zillion hats that you have to have on to start 2 companies during a pandemic.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So we joke around because literally not one day has seemed like work, even though, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, but we are having so much fun doing what we're doing. It's been absolutely amazing, but you're right. So we can create the most amazing product on the face of the earth, but unless people know about it, they're not gonna buy it, right? So right now we've been starting slow, starting organic, trying to get friends and family aware of it, and then getting it out on social media. So we've started on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and now our first podcast, which is really cool. But just being able to tell people our story really is the biggest part of it, of what we are, why we exist, why we created 2 different companies, and how this all kind of comes together, so people understand. I have so much fun just even on Twitter when I'm putting things out there and people are asking me, what does that mean? And I can explain it to them. They get so much enjoyment out of it, and I'm so fulfilled by being able to tell these stories. I love it.
I love it too. I love
Yeah.
it too. So a very good friend of mine is, you may know him. You definitely know of him, Johnny Walker, the
Of
Iraqi
course,
interpreter.
yeah.
Yeah. And just for the audience, he's the only guy I know who the SEALs say, call him brother and say, you can wear a trident. And he never went through BIDS and everything else. He's just a badass dude. And he was my interpreter for a minute in between team
Oh,
rotations.
okay.
Yeah. And so we go back almost 20 years now. And every year we get further from the battlefield, just the more my love for him and his whole family, just, it sweetens, and anytime he wants to spend time together, I'm desperate to do it. And I love it. And these are these bonds that you're talking about. And because of what I did, because I was kind of a gray man for a living, not a lot of you guys know me. There might be a couple of SEALs that recognize me here and there from my time overseas, but for the most part, I'm pretty much unknown. So the guys that I have in my life is one's this Iraqi interpreter, who became my battle brother, and a few other people. But that love just it ages like an expensive fine wine, like a Courvoisier, something, super expensive brand. What is it as we get older? I mean, I appreciate so much more now how dangerous it was what we did, and how fortunate we all are to be in the shape that we're in now. It's crazy to me as I reflect.
There is a shared camaraderie. I was actually talking to some people about this recently. Through, what's the word for it? We work under these super stressful conditions and make it through the other side. That when we talk about brotherhood and camaraderie and friendship and trust and people that have your back. And one of our labels coming up is going to be a back-to-back label that talks about that very thing of having somebody sick. And when I got out of the military, you see the difference in the trust and the friendship and that kind of stuff. And I want to use these labels to tell stories, to talk about that kinship and that camaraderie, because we can start with our families. We can expand to our neighbors and our communities. And I do a lot of public speaking just at my church for men's groups and things like that to talk about the need for this camaraderie, to kind of come together, and what that means.
I think there's a misconception among a lot of people that haven't, worked in a community like that, that the camaraderie is just like flipping a switch, that it's you have that camaraderie because you're all wearing the same patch, or you're all, on the same team, like a baseball team, and you've got each other's back and that kind of thing. And I think that they fail to recognize that it's the shared suffering and the shared triumph that makes that bond so incredibly deep. And if you look at the way you train, going through difficult, rigorous training isn't about turning an ordinary man into a superhero and calling him a SEAL. It has nothing to do with that individual. It actually has to do with dissolving away that individual so that he feels like he's part of something greater than himself, that he's willing to make sacrifice that he wouldn't make if it was just about him, or even him and his family. And so, the things that Tim is talking about here are the very nature of that community and how they train, how they organize, how they fight. It's reasons that when you get up into, tier 1 units, these guys stay together for a decade sometimes. It's like, it truly is like family. And that doesn't happen just by putting on a uniform. It doesn't happen just by making a deployment or by wearing the same hat. It happens through shared experience. And I think that if there is one powerful message that Tim and David are sharing with what they're doing, it's that. It's telling like he keeps saying, telling these stories. We want to tell the stories of the people. Why? We know this guy, he did something heroic. They're really talking about something that's relationship, not just the tale of somebody. They're telling a story that is a reflection of who these people are as human beings that existed on this planet in the context of this war. And that's something so much greater that it's hard to make people understand until they understand. And I think that Tim and David are doing a great job of what they're doing in bringing that message home.
I guess we should probably introduce who David is.
Oh yeah, we should. David is not a SEAL. He is, but he is Tim's business.
I'm done talking about David now.
Right.
No, please continue.
Is this when we start making jokes about SEALs writing books? No, we won't do that. Right?
I'm sorry, I cut you off in the middle of your thing about David, and I do want to get through.
Yeah, Tim, tell us about David.
No, enough about David. No, Dave's a great guy, and we have had the chance to partner, and we've had so much fun doing all of this. And he's really helped me out on the business side and getting things going, and especially with the relationships in the wine industry. And we talked about this earlier in that when I got into this, I was just a retired military guy, and I didn't have a coffee or wine background. And Dave was a venture capitalist and had started a bunch of different businesses, and he really understands kind of the ins and outs of business and those type of relationships. And so he's been really an integral part in getting this thing up and running and moving us forward on the business side. So really has been a great partner to work with. Our kids go to school together, and having just a blast working with them.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when Brian and I finally met David after interacting with Tim a little bit, and we got on a Zoom call so that we could all get to know each other better. What I found hugely inspirational about David was actually that the level of passion he has for this cause, for someone who has not served, I found just heartwarming. Like, he just has a real heart for, sharing these stories and getting the word out and supporting these charities that is inspirational. It makes you think that, a guy like David being this passionate about it, maybe there's hope for our country, right? When you see a guy like him who has no other physical tie to the community and yet just wants to say thank you in a way that's powerful and meaningful for the family. So he's a cool guy. I like him a lot. He doesn't get enough airtime. That's his only thing.
So
Sure.
So Tim, your sound is still bad, and what I want to do is reschedule, because this isn't gonna help you, because it's just too choppy, and I can't fix what's missing. So let's this is how these things go. We tried to do different things. But let's reschedule and just get a good hard full hour. And it'd be great to have David on there with you too, and give you guys something that you deserve for the program and the brand and everything, because people aren't going to listen to it when it's too choppy.
Okay. Thank you, Pete, for having me on the show, and I really appreciate it. I don't know what's going on our end. We'll get it fixed.
Let me just sign off. Hey, give me 1 second to sign